Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jesus here with the Van Bros, and today we're going to be doing a deck profile on Blangdmire Fantôme. Ooh, isn't that cool? This is my updated list after quite a bit of time playing both the proxy version and the in paper version. Now, whenever I play paper, I try not to use proxies unless it's a card I already own. Mainly because I don't want to psych myself out of like thinking I have the actual card, in case I ever want to bring it to a tournament. And so this deck, I had to remove the Nebula Knights order that I was proxying. I do not own a Nebula Knights order, nor do I plan on owning one if it's going to be for that ridiculous price. So until the future where if we ever get a reprint of it, or if they ever print out a card that's better, which I do believe there is a better card in the horizon. Well, not a better card, but a better substitute for it. This is the list I'm going to be playing for Blangdmire. Now, Blangdmire is not my top choice to bring to a big tournament. I have Ichicon for that, and that deck is untouched. Thank you, Bushy Road. But it's still a solid deck, and the way that the deck has changed since its initial bout is really interesting. I think it's a really fun deck to play. I really like the way that this deck plays, especially if you sequence it correctly with your orders as well as your teeth faults, as well as the grade 1. I can never remember that little grade 1's name, but the triple rare. So we'll get to it. Starter, grade 1. When this unit is rode upon by the grade 2, you soul blast, or no, you don't soul blast, but you grab a moon order, put it into the soul. This one, when it's ridden over by Blangdmire, soul blast 1, look at the top 3, add 1 to hand, and I believe you can discard the rest or put them back into the deck and shuffle. Blangdmire himself has 3 different skills, which we have gone over, but I will go over again. The first skill is counterblast 1, bind 4 face-up units from your drops, or bind 4 units from your drop zone face-up. And then the front row gets 5k. If you have 10 bound, they get another 5k. If you have 13 bound, they get another 5k. So plus 15k to the front row, plus 25 if you've persona road. And then he also has a skill that on attack, you get to call out a unit from your bind zone. And so it produces a 4th attack. The next effect is its Phantom skill, which is an axe skill for Energy Blast 3. You bind 2 moons up to 4, I believe, or I think this one's actually like locked, total of 2 or more, up to 4 moons, and then he gets the skill based off of how many moons you've bound. So like, you bind 2, he revives, you bind 4, he revives from drop, heals the damage, and then if you persona road that turn, he gets a critical. So it's always advantageous to, if you go first, you bind 2. Then for your next turn, once you persona ridden, then you bind the other 2 so that you can have 2 revives in the game, 1 heal, and an extra critical. Now, that one's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to go up to the grade 3s. We run 3 copies of Blangdmire so that we have the extra. So you have the persona rides, obviously you're gonna run, and then we run the one Liel. Liel is mainly there just to put cards back. I'll be honest though, lately she's been, I'm not gonna lie, I'm thinking about cutting her. I don't know, I'm just not, she's been coming up late. I'm discarding an extra card in my hand that I really shouldn't be discarding. This is where if I was running NKO, I would keep her, but I'm not running NKO. So there's no reason for me to have her in the deck. So she may be cut, just saying. And then I have my Fire Regalis, which is a pretty decent discard target. As long as you can still revive, anything you discard is not too bad, but still, by the time like it's advantageous to put cards back into the deck, you're pretty much you should be in a winning position already. For grade 2s, we have the old reliable 4 teeth faults. Then we have our personal cycler to get the moon. And then we have 3 copies of Zamoog, Zamoog is interesting because he actually is pretty lethal on his own if you call him off Blangdmire. But for a counterblast, a whole counterblast, you can look at the top 2 cards, add one to hand, and put the other to soul. It works if you went second, because I think your opponent has to be at grade 2 or above. Let's confirm that. Grade 2 or greater, yeah. So if you went second, you can proc this on on turn 2, or technically your turn 4. You know, if you go first, you don't really use it. And then the 4th card is Calibre, or Kyurbre. It's not bad. I don't hate it. The amount of times it's procced an extra attack are pretty much all the time. The thing about Kyurbre is that he's decent because you're already getting a buff to your front row of 25k power. So honestly, that extra attack is pretty nice, especially if it's in the process, if it's before your Vanguard's doing drive checks. I had to call a trigger. I had to call a trigger off the top 3. And when I called it, I was already Persona Road. I had 13 cards in drop. So I was able to make the trigger attack for, I believe it was 30k. And then the Blangdmire checked another front trigger. So even the trigger itself was able to get to a pretty decent number that the opponent had to actually use cards to guard with. So even if you're forced to call a trigger, he's still a decent card and can generate an extra attack. I'm not running the Dual Nation grade 2. I probably should. I would probably replace the Lien with that card. So, or not the Lien, the Liel. That one will probably be replaced with the grade 2 Dual Nation. For grade 1s, oh my god. 4 of, you know, Sir Gown. Yeah, I know, we run 4 Sir Gown. 4 copies of the little baby. Yeah, so this guy right here, Bad Act. Yeah, so 3 skills in the bind zone. If you call anything, if you have a Phantom Vanguard, so when you call anything from the bind zone, you can bind a card with a different name from your drop and call this guy right behind him. So if you call Kyurbre, you can call this right behind Kyurbre, and Kyurbre can do his shit. And then he has another skill where when it's placed, other than during the battle phase, so in the early game, you can look at the top 5, yes, for free, and either add a Blangdmire card or a Crimson Moon card to hand and shuffle the deck. So he searches your Persona rights as well as your generic searcher, technically. And then at the end of the battle that he boosted, if your bind zone has a Crimson Moon card and you did not countercharge this turn, retire this unit. Keep this guy away from the middle back row, because by the time that he's boosting your Blangdmire, the other one in the bind zone is not going to be able to proc. I keep him off to the side because he'll still be able to give me that counter charge. He'll be out of the way, and then we'll be able to bind him the next turn so that we can call him. But this way you can have another one from your bind zone come out. So nothing in there. You do not want him in the middle zone at all. So I'm running this card, Ill Omen Dragon. So at first I disregarded this card because it was a shitty common, but when I looked at him again, I thought, okay, he's pretty neat. So when he's placed on rear, you choose a grade 3. It does the whole fucking thing where if you were playing the deck, just show the card that you're running in your right deck to activate his skill if you're not a grade 3 yet. So yeah, show you have a Blangdmire, and then you can do the rest of the skill, where you, what's it called? You look at the top 3 cards of the deck. You choose up to 1 card from among them, bind it face up, and shuffle. I like this guy a lot because, so you can't do multiple of him per turn. He's a hard once per turn. But the cool thing about him is that he gets cards in your bind zone. So as you're calling out of your bind zone with Blangdmire, you're not actually dropping the amount of cards you have in your bind zone. He's a decent card. Honestly, I might move him up to 2 and lower down the Bedact. But yeah, I think he's solid. The reason I run him instead of the Nebula Knights order aside from price, because I'm just gonna say right now, there is no good replacement for Nebula Knight's Order in Blangdmire. If you own Nebula Knight's Order, you need to play Nebula Knight's Order in Blangdmire. This is purely a budget option. It's not a budget deck, because that is their defaults in the other side, but this is a decent option if you've already had your Keter package from previous Keter decks, but you never picked up NKO. I like this card because it makes it so that your bind zone is always at +1 compared to the regular gameplay loop that Blangdmire gives you. Nebula Knight's Order is really advantageous because it binds itself, which plays into Blangdmire's play pattern. But without NKO, not just every other, like, there's no other, like, card that binds that is advantageous to you. So I like this card as a replacement for that specific purpose, but that's the only purpose that this replaces for NKO. So that's why I run this one card. The next one I run is 3 copies of the best looking Perfect Guard for Keter aside from Isolt. And then obviously we run 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude. It could be 4 PGs. I don't think people are playing Liel anymore. And then 4 of the Good Moon. Doesn't matter if you play the Rare Moon. It sucks if you can't get the draw off the whiff, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. The fact that both moons can call themselves from drop is pretty major, so thank goodness that's the card, that's the skill that's not different between the two. But yeah, so that's the grade 1s. The next thing and the last part is the triggers. So we run a red OT, we run 3 fronts, we run 4 heals, and we run 8 critical. But that is my list of what that's my Blangdmire list. That's how it looks. Let me know down below what you guys play. Obviously you guys, if you have them, you're probably playing NKO, which is awesome. I'm not discrediting that card at all. It's a really strong card, very solid, helps out a lot. But yeah, let me know what you guys are doing. Are there cards in this list that you couldn't pick up before, like Sir Gowns or Teeth Faults? What are you running instead of those? I think budget options are very important nowadays, especially for Cardfight Vanguard, mainly because of the fact that, you know, as hobbies become more expensive because of bad actors coming into the scene, as well as just the economy just not being so well and jobs being harder to get and barely paying people a livable wage. I think budget options, aside from proxying, are also important to shout out. So yeah, let me know how your Blangdmire's list looks, how they're different, what options you're running. I am super interested in to hear all of that. So again, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that other stuff. Bye.